Some of the most scrutinized people in the fitness community are kettlebell warriors. While some of them do have a cult-like following with people that absolutely love them and their training style, they get a ton of criticism in the fitness community, especially from bodybuilders. This begs the question, are kettlebell warriors onto something, or is their training style completely useless? In this video, I'll be taking a look at a couple kettlebell warriors and discussing whether their methods are actually effective.
Kettlebell swings are a wonderful part to include in a circuit for overall general cardiovascular fitness. However, for resistance training, for growing the hamstrings or the glutes or the lower back, or for sport training, developing strength and power and speed, all of those things, something the kettlebell swing is neither biomechanically designed to do because most of the forces are horizontal, and in real sport, most of the limiting forces are vertical. And so you just kind of left behind as an exercise that looks like you're doing something.
So first, we're starting off with my boy Marlon Israel, who hates on kettlebells, particularly the kettlebell swing. And the guy in the video doesn't like that Marlon says this and has an explanation in his caption. In his caption, he writes, "The ones who say kettlebells don't build strength and power are the same ones who've never lifted more than a 35-pounder before." He then rambles by saying that people who hate on kettlebells just aren't educated in kettlebell training. And towards the end of his caption, he says, "I've had debates with strength coaches who will say this and that about strength training, but your body doesn't know the difference. Weight is weight. If you don't go heavy at all, then you're not going to get strong using anything." So his point is essentially that your body doesn't know what modality you're using. Weight is weight. It doesn't matter what form it is. So first, I'll start off with Marlon's points, with his first one being that kettlebells are good for circuit training. I mean, I guess he's right, but it isn't some sort of magic circuit training tool. There are a ton of different exercises that you can use for circuit training. You can do bodyweight exercises like push-ups, plyometrics, you can do sled drags, tire flipping, battle ropes, and you can even use dumbbells and barbells. So again, his point that kettlebells are good for circuit training is technically right, but there are a lot of other tools that can be used for circuit training as well. His next point is that kettlebell swings are bad for hypertrophy, and yes, I agree with him here. The reason why kettlebell swings aren't great for hypertrophy is that you primarily use momentum, and if you've ever done them before, it's actually quite hard to go close to failure and load them up heavy. Not saying that you can't build muscle using kettlebell swings, but it's just a trash version of an RDL if you're looking to build muscle. Marlon then claims that the kettlebell swing is bad for sports, which I think is a kind of dumb point. His main point is that most limiting forces in sports are vertical. Does Marlon know that sprinting exists? Sprinting is primarily horizontal, especially during the acceleration portion, so improving horizontal power actually plays a huge role. There's a big reason why athletes don't just do vertical jump training and do a bunch of horizontal power training like broad jumps as well. Now into the kettlebell warrior's point, which is weight is weight. And technically he's right. The modality you choose doesn't matter because your muscles just respond to tension. But this dude is not telling you the full story. In order to build muscle and strength, you need to go close to failure. The issue with kettlebells is that because of its odd shape, it makes it much harder to take the target muscle close to failure. I'm not saying that kettlebells don't have their place or that this odd shape can't actually be an advantage, but when it comes to strength and hypertrophy training, it's not an advantage. Another issue with kettlebells is that it makes it difficult to load particular movements, especially leg movements. I mean, look at this guy doing lunges. Bro has to lean so far back to carry this kettlebell because his core has to compensate so he can't stand upright. In order to get stronger and build bigger muscles, you need to be able to load movements and progressively overload them effectively, and kettlebells just aren't the best option. In summary, both of these guys have good points, but some of their claims are a bit flawed. A big issue I have with fitness influencers nowadays is that they haven't taken the time to educate themselves or pursue any certifications. This is why I'm excited to announce that ISSA is sponsoring today's video. Believe it or not, I've had experience working a 9-to-5 job before I started doing YouTube. First, I worked a 9-to-5 in a shoe store over the summer, even though I told them I only wanted to work 20 hours per week. And when I was in physical therapy school, I had a clinical where I worked from 8 to 5. And no hate to people working 9-to-5s, but 9-to-5s just weren't for me. I felt like I had no time to do anything, and when I got home, I was so tired that all I wanted to do was sleep. This is where getting a career in fitness comes in. Unlike the typical 9-to-5 job, having a career in fitness gives you the flexibility that I didn't have back then. You get to work on your own schedule, have far more freedom in general, and you get to do something that's far more fun and fulfilling. When I was in school, I really loved fitness and wanted to train people, but everywhere I wanted to work required a certification from a reputable organization. And even with me doing fitness as a full-time job now, a big reason why I was able to do this is because I took time to get a formal education and had other credentials which gave me credibility in the fitness space. This is where ISSA comes in. The International Sports Sciences Association is the leader in online fitness certification, empowering individuals to become certified personal trainers and health professionals through flexible science-based education. Their online platform has been used by over 1 million professional trainers worldwide. You can become a certified fitness trainer in as little as 90 days. Their programs Classes are 100% online and self-paced, so you can study from your phone or laptop while still working your current job or going to school. There are 73,000 personal training job openings in the fitness industry. Once you're certified, you can join ISSA's Career Connect community. Career Connect is designed to connect you with employers. ISSA has over 10,000 gym partners. Career Connect can help you find employment opportunities in your area. ISSA guarantees you'll find a job in the US or you'll get your money back. Testing is also open book, open note, and you can take it from the comfort of your own home. The pass rate is super high, and if you need it, ISSA even offers a free retake. I recently got my strength and conditioning coach certification from ISSA, and it was an amazing experience. I learned even more about strength and conditioning, which I can teach you guys. I can train people with even more confidence than before, and if I decide to train in person again, it will make getting hired even easier. Not only did I learn more about strength and conditioning, but as a busy person, it was so easy and convenient to get it done. I was able to do it from the comfort of my own home, at my own pace, and they gave me all the available resources I needed to get it done. And if you want to build an online business like I did, it opens up even more freedom. You can work from anywhere, travel, and live life on your own terms while doing something meaningful. Whether you're ready for a career change or looking for a side hustle, ISSA makes it possible. If you want to turn your passion into a career where you help others transform their lives, build your online coaching business like I did. ISSA is giving a special offer to my community. Head to joinissa.com/MartinRios. It's also linked in the description, and use code MartinRios to get an extra $100 off your certified personal trainer certification. You've waited long enough. It's time to build a career and life you've been dreaming of. Thanks again to ISSA for sponsoring this portion of today's video. Now back to the video.
Are people that I legitimately hate on TikTok. Okay, maybe hate is a strong word, but severely dislike. And it is the Kettlebell Warriors. All it is just a guy who's somewhat lean with a little bit of muscle. He's using a kettlebell. He's sweaty, doing the most pointless of cardio-ish exercises with a kettlebell, and his comment section is just full of people like, I want this physique. Oh, this is what I need to do. I'm just like, guys, if you want to build muscle and be lean, which is what you are going for, the guy in the video, what he's doing, that's not the best way to get there. Not even close. You want to have muscle? Train for muscle. You want to be lean? Don't eat as much. What that guy is doing with the kettlebell in that video, you know, that little like lunge, switch over to the other hand, lunge with the kettlebell. No, I'm sorry, that's not what's going to get you there. So please just think a little bit more. If you're interested in having that type of physique, hypertrophy plus nutrition. It's that simple.
So here we got a bodybuilder who absolutely hates kettlebell warriors, to say the least. One of his main points is that many of the exercises that kettlebell warriors do are cardio exercises pretty much. I wouldn't necessarily classify kettlebell lifts as cardio exercises, but because some kettlebell lifts are so hard to load up, they have to do super high reps, so I guess I can see his point. But his main point is that many people see kettlebell warriors with amazing physiques, and they think that the best way to get that physique is by doing kettlebell lifts. And I completely agree with him that kettlebell lifting is not the best way to get an amazing physique. The reasons why kettlebell lifting isn't great for strength and hypertrophy training is, one, it makes it harder to take the target muscle close to failure. The second is limited exercise options. Training variety is one of the best ways to get the most out of your training. How are you going to maximize muscle growth when you only have a few exercises that you can choose from because you only do kettlebell lifts? Reason 3 is that kettlebells make it difficult to load movements at times. And the final reason why kettlebells aren't the best for hypertrophy/strength training is that many lifts don't have an eccentric component. And since this is the same kettlebell warrior I showed earlier, his counter argument is the exact same. With him saying, when we are talking about hypertrophy and progressive overload, your body really doesn't know the difference with the weight you are using. It knows to get stronger and to handle more weight, period. And as I mentioned earlier, this argument is super flawed because kettlebells make it harder to load up movements and progressively overload. This is not to say that you can't build muscle using kettlebells, because again, your muscles just respond to tension. It's just not the best training tool to go about it.
Your boring little gym bro routine isn't going to get you into fighting shape, but this will. Make sure you save it. We're starting off with 10 snatches each arm, building power, endurance, and relentless grit. Then 10 squats each side, unilateral strength, stability, and mobility. Next, we got 5 clean and presses per side, power and control all in one movement. Then 20 goblet squats, building those supple legs that can actually last. And finishing this off with 10 windmills each side, bulletproofing the joints, finishing off the core. That's one round, not setting the bell down the entire time. Go for 5 rounds total. For the couch potato critics about to say, you have to actually fight to get into fighting shape. Zip your lips, read the caption. If you want to master the kettlebell while getting in the best shape of your life, link in my bio. I will see you soon. Peace.
Videos like this are why people hate kettlebell warriors. You can tell this guy's an absolute charlatan based on how he describes snatches. He said that doing 10 snatches will build power, endurance, and relentless grit. When someone uses the phrase relentless grit to describe an exercise, they're likely just a charlatan throwing random words out there. Bro claims that this kettlebell circuit will get you into fight shape. I probably don't have to tell you this because it's so obvious, but this little circuit is not gonna get you into fight shape. This guy claims that you don't have to fight to get into fight shape. Yeah, you freaking do. Out of camp, you can do more general work like zone 2 workouts and other more general endurance methods to build a good aerobic base. But in camp, you actually have to fight. Once you get closer to the fight, you have to do more sport-specific conditioning. For example, fighting at fight pace, as this allows you to take the fitness that you build out of camp and learn how to apply it to a fight. But even out of camp, if I wanted to get into fight shape, I wouldn't be doing this weird circuit. I'd be doing things like endurance blocks, strength blocks, and power blocks to actually improve particular athletic qualities instead of just throwing a bunch of random exercises into a circuit. I'm not saying that circuits aren't effective and they have their place, but I personally find that they're heavily overused for conditioning, and the circuit that this guy created isn't even a good one. First of all, why would you only do a kettlebell circuit? Why would you limit yourself to one training modality? Why not add in some plyometrics, or even better, some fight drills? The second issue is that the kettlebell exercises this guy picked aren't even great. When doing circuits, you want to perform the exercises explosively, and a good amount of the exercises he picked won't allow you to do this. He does an offset squat, but he does it slowly. He then does a goblet squat, which is repetitive to the offset squat, and again does it slowly. He then does 10 windmills, and I'm wondering, why are we adding accessory exercises to a conditioning circuit? And finally, where are upper body exercises? Fighting isn't just done with the lower body, bro. It has a huge upper body component. Throwing kettlebells around and doing some poorly loaded leg exercises isn't a great circuit, and it definitely won't get you into fight shape.
Are kettlebells better than dumbbells? Let's find out. Dumbbells are great if your goal is to isolate your body, let's say for bigger biceps. It also helps with muscle imbalances created from training strictly with barbells. The kettlebell, on the other hand, because of its unique shape, it places a different type of load on your body, your joints, and overall muscle. It's a great tool for endurance training. Endurance training is great at developing your work capacity. It means your ability to adapt and recover without losing your composure. From an activity, a workout, kettlebell training combines the endurance of a triathlete and the power of an Olympic lifter. And the best part is that kettlebells doesn't break your body down as much as barbell or dumbbell training. So you could train for function, longevity, whether you're 53, 63, or 73 and above. So the question is, which one is best for you? The type of grit and mental toughness you built from training with kettlebells, no other tool come close.
So again, another kettlebell lifter with a bunch of buzzwords. The amount of grit and mental toughness you build with kettlebells is unmatched, man. Just like many kettlebell lifters, this guy loves to talk about endurance. Maybe the reason why kettlebell lifters talk about endurance so much is because they have to do so many reps, because kettlebells are not the most effective way to load up movements. And believe it or not, you can use dumbbells and barbells to train for endurance too. I will admit though that kettlebells are a great option to improve core muscle endurance since it requires more stability. The main point I want to address from this video is the fact that this guy said that kettlebells create the endurance of a marathon runner and the power of an Olympic weightlifter. I mean, does anyone actually believe this? If kettlebells were so great, why doesn't a marathon train with kettlebells? And why doesn't an Olympic lifter train with kettlebells? Maybe because they're not the best option to do either of those things. When it comes to weightlifting, kettlebells can actually be good for power, but again, since it requires more stability, it shouldn't be done exclusively, and it's probably not the best way to improve power. When it comes to endurance, as I explained earlier, kettlebells may be good at developing core muscle endurance, but improving muscular endurance can be done with dumbbells and barbells too, and it's not going to get you the endurance of a freaking marathon runner. Even if you do a bunch of kettlebell circuits, you're not going to get amazing endurance, since in order to get good at running, you actually have to train your aerobic system by doing low intensity, long duration work. This is why kettlebell warriors get laughed at. Instead of being honest about kettlebells, they over exaggerate the benefits and give you false promises.
We got these fucking dorks, these science-based lifters going after kettlebell lifters right now, saying that what we do is inefficient and bullshit. I have a degree in exercise science. Bodybuilding is for people who want to look strong. Kettlebell lifting is for people who don't want to be a pussy. Farm strong. You can't quantify that in a scientific study. Like, bro, we train to wrestle a bull. We can out sprint you, we can outlift you, we can outfight you, we can even out throw you. You don't want to be locked in a cage with us, man. You'll be destroyed. Most scientific studies on exercise science talk about or use machines. Why? Because they control for the most variables. You can't quantify a kettlebell lift, man. The brute strength The mobility, the instability that forces you to control that bell. Like, we train to wrestle a bull. You train to look like you're strong. Y'all stay at the kids' table. Kettlebell lifting is actually a skill that you have to master. Y'all just go up and down with a Smith machine. Bro, we're throwing boulders. It hurts my forearms. Yeah, because you're a big bitch. Try 2 150-pound kettlebells. Clean and jerk that shit. Let me know if it's harder to do it that way or on a barbell. This is country boy strong. Keep looking at the most efficient angle of how to lift your fucking cable machines. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk, you fucking dorks.
All right, there are a ton of points this guy made that I need to break down. When one of his points are that kettlebell lifting are for people who don't want to be a pussy, and that kettlebell lifting makes you farm strong, I know his points are probably not going to be good.
Bro, we train to wrestle a bull.
No, you don't. In order to train to wrestle a bull, you have to wrestle a bull. Just throwing a kettlebell around won't magically develop the skills you need to actually wrestle a bull.
I can out sprint you.
So out sprint might actually be possible, since they do train power with kettlebell Olympic lift variations and kettlebell swings. But the issue is that their legs probably won't be that strong. As I mentioned before, kettlebells don't load up movements very well, particularly leg movements. And kettlebell lifters don't do things like plyometrics and, I don't know, actually sprinting, so they're probably not going to be good at sprinting, so it's a silly argument. He then claims we can outlift you. Yeah, you can outlift bodybuilders in kettlebell lifting, but they can probably outlift you in barbell lifts, maybe dumbbell lifts, and definitely machine lifts. I'm wondering if this guy knows about the principle of specificity. You get good at the activities you actually do. If you lift kettlebells a lot, you're going to be good at lifting kettlebells. If you lift with machines a lot, you're going to be good at lifting with machines. So again, a pretty silly claim.
Can outfight you.
So the same thing with wrestling a bull applies here. Swinging a bunch of kettlebells around won't help you become a better fighter. Just because I do a bunch of kettlebell swings doesn't mean I can throw head kicks and crazy combinations. And with all the cons I mentioned about kettlebell lifting, there are some aspects where they're not going to make you a better fighter. He then claims we can outthrow you. Pretty much the same thing with sprinting here. They do some power exercises, but they don't actually throw stuff.
Can't quantify a kettlebell lift, man. The brute strength. The mobility, the instability that forces you to control that bell. Like,
so he brags about the instability of kettlebell liftings, and I've mentioned in previous videos how too much of a good thing can be a bad thing. And I also like to say, just because something is harder doesn't mean it's more effective. Take Bosu ball squats, for example. Bosu ball squats are freaking hard, but just because they're hard doesn't mean they're better than something like a barbell squat, which is a far better choice for strength, hypertrophy, and power development. I'm not saying that using a kettlebell is just as bad as doing a Bosu ball squat. I'm just saying that just because something is harder and more unstable doesn't mean it's more effective. This is why I prefer standard free weights, because I feel like it's a good middle ground. It's not too stable where you're not able to work on balance or stability, but it's also not too unstable where you can effectively load up movements.
Kettlebell lifting is actually a skill that you have to master. Y'all just go up and down with a Smith machine.
Yeah, so that's the thing. If you're not someone looking to compete in the Kettlebell World Championships, why do you need to learn this skill? This is why there are many athletes and coaches who don't do Olympic lifts, because although they're effective, it does require lots of skill that isn't worth learning, because these athletes have to go and work on their actual skills for their sport, and they don't want to waste their time learning how to do an Olympic lift. When it comes to strength training for sports, athletes are just trying to develop general physical qualities so they're able to perform their skills at a higher level. They don't care if they get good at using kettlebells. Again, just because something is harder doesn't mean it's more effective. Of course, using a kettlebell is going to be more difficult than cleaning and jerking a barbell or a dumbbell, but that doesn't automatically mean it's more effective. To be fair, I do agree with this guy that science-based lifters are going too far down the stability path, but in my opinion, doing kettlebell lifting exclusively is going down a little bit too much of the instability path. So you may be wondering if I'm on the kettlebell warrior side or the bodybuilder side. And to be honest, I'm kind of in the middle. I don't completely agree with bodybuilders or science-based lifters who make kettlebell lifting out to be a circus act and act like doing kettlebell lifts is like doing a Bosu ball squat, for example. But I also don't agree with the kettlebell warriors. I do agree that building stability is very important, but it can also be a bad thing depending on the goal. As I mentioned earlier, kettlebells are great for building postural control and stability, but it's not the best option for building prime mover strength. And although they like to say that weight is weight, it's not the best option to build muscle. The only reason why people think it's a great option is that they see a bunch of steroid head kettlebell warriors, or the kettlebell warriors didn't actually use kettlebells to build that physique. Kettlebell warriors also act like kettlebells are amazing for building power and endurance, which again, it has its place for that, but I wouldn't say it's the best option, and it definitely shouldn't be used exclusively. I do want to clarify that kettlebells can be effective, but just like other training methods, it's a tool we have in our tool belt. It doesn't mean we should use it exclusively and not get the benefits from other training methods. Calisthenics are kind of like kettlebells. There are a bunch of calisthenic athletes out there who say that calisthenics are better than weights, but it's like, why are you only doing one or the other? Why not do both? Only doing kettlebells just limits you. Kettlebells can be part of a great program. Just don't use them exclusively like these kettlebell warriors, because you miss the amazing benefits of calisthenics, dumbbells, and free weights. I'm personally not a big fan of machines, but if you want to include in this category, go ahead. So those are my thoughts on kettlebell training and kettlebell warriors. Make sure you like the video if you enjoyed and subscribe for more content like this. And I recently made a video going over the craziest gym group I've seen online, which you should check out.